Hey, okay. I was not planning on going live, but then I remembered this thing that I seen earlier from EWU, and I thought, man, this is so weird. Because I saw this and I was like, this seems kind of weird. So I stopped it and rewound it. And now I am live because somebody else should be watching this with me because this is the wildest shit I have ever seen. I lost a subscriber. I lost a subscriber. I forgot. I mentioned that earlier. I can't believe it. I lost a subscriber. It's crazy. But I guess not everybody is party pen material, right? Not everybody is party pen material. I'm trying to see if I'm live. Yes. Okay. So I'm live. So we're going to watch this crazy ass shit. And remember, the rules are do not be a party pooper. Your free speech ends where YouTube rules and my feelings begin. Yeah. So, this right here. We're going to watch this because, like I said, this was the craziest shit I've ever seen. Okay.
I think you probably know why we're here, right?
Well, yeah, the goofy guy that I was having with decided to take off with my fuel.
I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero.
Do I look like a black-haired, black-eyed gimp?
You had no intention of keeping them here forever as a slave in your basement.
Once they're done, you just keep them.
On Christmas Day 2019, a Michigan couple grows worried when their 25-year-old son doesn't show up for the family breakfast. Police launch an investigation that will soon take them into some of the darkest
The weirdest shit happens in Michigan, man.
corners of the underground
And I know that because I'm from there. I was born and raised on 8 Mile.
fetish community, where violence and recreation go hand in hand. The detectives are now tasked to uncover the truth. Was an unhappy young man searching for someone who would release him from his misery for good? Or did his search for pleasure
That guy had a big forehead.
drive him into the clutches of a depraved cannibal?
George Costanza forehead.
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's late in the afternoon of December 25th, 2019, when Flint
Oh my God, I have a dehydrator. And I'm telling you, if anybody puts human meat in my dehydrator, I will be highly offended, grossed out, and man, I make I dry beets in that thing, man. It's good. Don't destroy it.
Township police officers respond to a missing persons report in Swartz Creek, Michigan. The parents of 25-year-old hairdresser Kevin Richard Bacon expected him to show up at their house at 9 a.m. that morning for Christmas breakfast
His
with the
eyebrows
family,
are on
but he
his eyebrows are on fleek.
never appeared. He's not answering his phone and no
Oh my God. Why does that look like Kyle? It really does. I actually, a gay guy I know looks exactly like him. I want to call Crystal.
No one has seen or heard from him since the previous day. However, the parents provide information that give police a head start. They tell investigators that their son is gay and has been regularly meeting up with men through various online
Man,
dating apps. In fact, his roommate reports that Kevin was headed out for just such a date on Christmas Eve.
ooh,
Police have no way of knowing at this point if Kevin's date is related to his disappearance, but there have been several recent incidents involving online hookups in this area.
uh-oh.
Next to himself, he's running down the road, trying to get an address.
Hey, cousin. Wait till you check out this case. Look, this is the wildest shit. I've only watched half of it. And I had to come on here to watch it. I want to know what you think about this. This is crazy.
For a mailbox or something, kind of hysterical.
One of these recent incidents happened only a month ago, on November 25th. Michigan police responded to a report about a young man running down the road wearing only a leather kilt and an older man chasing him down. This young man managed to get to a resident's house in the neighborhood to call 911. And if the details of his run through the area are strange, his story of what happened immediately prior is even more bizarre.
How far down?
Thank you.
You know this one? Oh, yeah. Don't spoil it for me. Because I know a little bit about it because I did watch some of it. But I didn't watch all of it.
White break. Story.
Still got your clothes on? Yeah. Nothing like that happen?
No. So it's trying, but
Okay.
it's probably something.
How do you know this guy? How long have you known him?
Is
How
your
long have you known
mom
him?
here? She might like this one.
How did you meet him?
Mhm.
The caller admits that this started as a consensual meetup, not the first one he's had with the man. However, this encounter soon turned frightening. Once the man chained him up in his secluded basement, he told the caller that he was going to keep him captive. The moment the caller found an opportune moment, he fled the house to get to safety and call the police.
Let me ask. I'm asking you a straight up question, my man. Are you looking to press charges from what happened today? Okay, because here's the thing, is that if we start doing a bunch of investigations and he says, yeah, you know what, man, this guy told
This cop is real life, though, because when have you ever heard a cop go, if I do all this work and you say and you don't do it, I'm going to, you know what? This cop is real life.
me he was into it and all this. Well, hold on, let me just explain this. And we end up doing all kinds of stuff, and you're not willing to do anything about this, then we kind of don't really have a whole lot of any leg to stand on at that point. You know what I mean? So what are you looking to have done out of it today?
Oh, I hope she gets better.
Okay.
Could the details of this strange incident have anything to do with the disappearance of Kevin Bacon? Police aren't sure yet, but there are definitely some similarities. The young man from November made plans with his alleged assailant online, and that's where Kevin met his date as well. Kevin's roommate says he left the house at around 5:23 p.m. on Christmas Eve to meet the man, which was also recorded on the home's Nest camera footage. She tells police she hasn't heard from Kevin since 6:11 p.m. when he sent this text. Okay, well, I'm going to be out for a while, actually. This is going to be fun. He's inviting more men. Merry Christmas. Not sure when I'll be back. Probably will be out late. So if Mom calls you, I'm sleeping. Ha ha. The circumstances surrounding Kevin's sudden disappearance are concerning
He
for
looks
several
just
reasons.
like Kyle.
For one, Kevin's parents admit to police that their son has tried to take his own life in the past. Could the story of an online hookup merely be a pretense to get out of the house and away from anyone who might prevent him from trying again? Or did he run into someone with suspicious intent, like that young man from last month? Police in November did end up speaking to the older gentleman involved in that dispute, and while he denied any wrongdoing, something seemed strange about his behavior.
Hello?
Why don't you come on out?
Oh, sure. What can I help you with?
Oh, here
Well,
we go.
I think you probably know why we're here, right?
Well, yeah, the goofy guy that I was having with decided to take off with Mike Hewitt.
Okay. Well, can you put the dog away so we can talk a little bit more about this? Because he's telling us one side of the story. We want to get yours.
Went over to his place a couple of months ago, and then he contacted me and he says, hey, come on over, and hit me up, and I'll come out. I said, well, I got some tile that I need to.
Okay.
I said, then, we can play a little bit. And so he came up, I picked him up, came over, followed the tile, played around a little bit. Next thing I know, boom. He left his pile of clothes right here. He took my silk.
He's telling me that you wouldn't let him go. You chained him up?
Well, I got chains and stuff, but
You had him chained.
he could have left at any time.
Okay. Did he ask you to leave?
What?
Did he ask you to leave?
No.
He never asked to leave, and you had him chained up in the basement?
Well, he was here today.
Okay.
So, yeah. Do I have chains? Yeah. So I got a sling.
Was this just all like a bunch of role-playing type stuff?
Bingo.
All right.
Exactly.
So you had no intention of keeping him here forever as a slave
Wow.
in the basement?
No.
Okay.
I've got too much going on for something like that.
All right.
The man tells the police that the day was spent between two consenting adults, and he's perplexed as to what happened to make the other guy run off with his leather kilt.
Could you imagine running down the street in a skirt?
We've seen one another a couple of times.
How many's a couple?
Well, I met him at Walmart one day, and then he looked me up and found me and started, went back and forth on the internet for a while, just chatting back and forth. Then, it's like, so he kept finding, he was pursuing my account.
Okay.
Not a matter of me looking up him, and I'm looking at him going, okay, fine. It's like, what the heck? You want to play for a day? I'll play. No big deal.
All right.
But as far as him going, that's crazy, I can't explain that at all.
And everything, you're telling me everything was consensual.
Everything was consensual.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Mark.
M-A-R-K?
Yeah.
Middle name?
David.
And your last?
Latunski.
With two conflicting stories about this encounter and the purported victim declining to press charges, there's not much more the troopers can do to investigate. They file their reports and move on, not knowing that the disappearance of Kevin Bacon would lead them back to Mark Latunski much sooner than they thought. Late on Christmas Day, Kevin's parents find their son's Saturn Aura in the parking lot of the Family Dollar. After opening the car with a spare key, investigators find $80 in cash, Kevin's credit and debit cards, and his driver's license. Even more concerning is what they find in the back seat: a grocery sack containing the clothing he was last seen wearing, his phone, and his keychain. The car key and fob have also been removed from the keychain. The following day, a thorough sweep of the strip mall property with a K-9 unit, a community search party, and a helicopter search produced no results. But despite 2 days of frustrating dead-end leads, this investigation is about
Mostly
to take a
it's
sharp
your
turn.
intentions that
With
make
some
it
help from the
criminal.
Michigan State Police, detectives retrieved messages from Kevin's account on a dating app from the night he went missing. He was corresponding with someone calling themselves Olikos, and they made plans to meet up on Christmas Eve in front of Family Dollar, the very store where Kevin's family found his car. Using facial recognition software, police put the Olikos profile to a real name, Mark David Latunsky.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Mark.
Troopers head out to Mark's house again, but he says he doesn't know anyone named Kevin Bacon. Nonetheless, they thoroughly search the house and find nothing amiss until they go into the basement. There they encounter a
This is the part I stopped and I rewound it and went live. So, this is where I stopped it.
disquieting sight that sends a chill down their spines. Behind a partially hidden room, they find long chains attached to a pulley system in the ceiling and the naked body of a dead man hanging by his feet. They immediately handcuff Mark Latunsky and put him in the back of a patrol vehicle as they continue
Oops.
to process the horrifying scene inside. From their information and photographs of Kevin Bacon, they can quickly tell that they've found their missing person. But before they proceed, police notice another disturbing detail. A part of Kevin's body has been mutilated. While the search for Kevin Bacon has come to an end, the inquiry into what happened here has only just begun. In the meantime, Mark Latunsky sits alone in the cop car, contemplating his fate.
Didn't take him long, did it? You're going to treat him like a homicide. Of course.
Mark will spend quite a long time in the back of this car as the police carefully investigate the house. But he won't spend all of it alone, and it soon becomes clear to cops on the scene that it will not be easy to get straight answers to even the simplest questions.
Mark, I'm Sergeant Burdance, State Police, okay? Do you know what's going on? Do you know why you're in the back of this car?
Yes, I know why I'm back in the back of this car.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know I got my detective en route. My detective's probably going to want to talk to you, okay? So,
That's fine.
okay. All right, I just wanted to let you know.
And then once I talk to him, how am I going to get back home?
Well, let's get stage one first, okay? Let's get the detective out here.
Absolutely. And then I can explain to him all the things that you guys don't know,
Okay.
and then I can
Yeah.
come back home.
Yeah, because we want to know your side of the story, okay?
Absolutely.
But we'll wait for the
Why do people always, like, they commit these crimes and then they think that they're going to go home?
detective to get out here, but I just wanted to at least let you know, okay?
Look, I understand.
All right, Mark. Hey, how do you pronounce your last name? Latunsky?
That's the name that you're gonna have me in your system as, yes.
Okay.
According to 230, white male, one wearing a blue and white shirt, the other wearing very long.
Do I look like a black-haired, black-eyed gimp?
What do you mean?
Latunsky.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yes. The Latunskys are all black-haired, black-eyed gimps.
If the cop in the front seat isn't quite sure what to make of this declaration, it's hardly the last curious thing Mark will say in the back of the car.
I went to Battle Creek, picked up this guy, had his leg amputated below the knee. And he was the one who helped me decorate the palm tree.
Oh, really?
You want to know what electricity has done for me?
What's that?
Wow.
It allowed my next door neighbor to shove arsenic into a hole and put it into my well and every well downstream for 2 miles. All my veins just dropped off.
Which one?
The one that I wear on my... But you don't know the facts. And the facts are, how do you turn a black-haired, black-eyed boy who was born a cripple into a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy who's Norwegian?
This guy's losing his mind. This guy's losing his mind.
Get some gloves. You don't want to touch anything that's been touching us.
What the hell?
Nothing happens here in Shiawassee.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Get some gloves. You don't want to touch anything that's been touching us.
He said you don't want to be touching what?
Get some gloves. You don't want to touch
You don't want to touch anything
anything that's been touching us.
that's been touching this cunt. Maybe.
Nothing happens here in Shiawassee.
While Mark's collection of odd conversational subjects may seem almost random, he brings many of them with him to the interrogation.
Uh-oh.
He's particularly interested in sharing the backstory of his name, which is apparently a window into a complex
Mentally
family
ill.
history.
That is not my legal name.
Oh, it isn't.
No. That is a stolen identity.
In all actuality, pleading insanity is way worse than being found guilty. Just going to I've never been to a mental hospital, but I can assume it's a lot like prison, only with actual crazy people, not pretend crazy people.
Mark David Latumsky was last, or at least the last record that I have of Mark David Latumsky was 1972. He was born in 1969. He has black hair, he has brown eyes, and he was born a cripple. So, what happened to Mark David Latumsky? I have no idea. Okay. However, all of the people that I grew up with knew that I'm not Mark David Latumsky.
Well, then who are you, you
Failed to tell
psycho?
me. All I know is that I'm sitting here as the only living Thomas of Wales that I've been able to find. So, to what extent that makes one iota of difference to why we're talking, I don't know.
It's a question that the detectives have perhaps pondered themselves by this point, since they
Well,
are,
look
after
at
all,
their
looking less at
faces.
Mark's family records and
Those
more at
cops,
any
look at
information.
them. They're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Look at them. They're like, uh-huh. Tell us more, crazy man.
Since they are, after all, looking less at Mark's family records and more at any information he can give them that might explain how Kevin ended up dead in his basement.
The prison food and the mental health food, they get their food from the same place. Only in the mental house, I'm sure, like actual staff cooks the food, but in prison, it's the inmates that cook the food. And they're not allowed to have seasonings or anything like that. So jail food it's good. It's just regular food. It just doesn't have seasoning.
All the same, the police
Most other food comes from Gordon's food service.
will speak to various people in Mark's life over the coming days, and through these interviews they will learn that Mark's fixation
And the only reason I know that is my whole job in prison was in the kitchen.
on his own mistaken identity are nothing new. They first speak with his ex-wife, Emily.
It was at my son's birthday party, and he came out with all these theories that he wasn't actually his mother's son, he was his mother's brother, and there was a family fortune that he was supposed to get, and there was people watching him. And I tried for 2 years to get him to, he was hospitalized for twice in the stress unit, tried for 2 years to get him to stay on medication and just, to get him help, and he just refused.
Mark will give detectives every gruesome detail they want to know before this night is through. For now, however, they want to get a better understanding of who he is.
What do you do? You said you mentioned you work. What do you do for a living?
Well, right now I'm doing construction. What I have done for a living is had my trust funds raided by people who were pretending to employ me and giving me back.
Okay. The beds in the mental health facility are way better than the mats that they give you in prison. That is 100% sure. And again, I have never been to a mental ward before or a psych ward, but I did spend a lot of time in juvenile hall, a lot of time in jail, and a lot of time in prison. But I promise jail food is not that bad. It's just unflavored bulk food from Gordon's. Literally regular food. It just doesn't have seasoning. And it's made by people that have no love in their heart because they're in a lonely place. So the food doesn't feel like there's love in it because there's not. So it's not good. But it's just regular food out of a can.
My own money.
The detectives quickly realized that getting any coherent background information on Mark will be a
And also, like stuffing and things like that are handmade, homemade. The whipped cream, homemade. Like anything like that, cakes and shit, homemade. Like stuff like that is homemade. It's like made from scratch. And prison is probably one of the only places you'll get food made from scratch.
Sure, but he eventually acknowledges that he spent much of the last 20 years employed as a chemist at 2 prominent companies in Michigan. However, for the past several months, he's been working odd jobs, some of which seem pretty odd indeed for someone with a master's degree in chemistry.
I was looking for honest work.
Oh, yeah, prison. You don't get grilled cheese in prison. No, yeah, I don't think. But you do get peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like twice a month. You can get that on their alternative protein things. So, like when they give you chicken on a bone, which I do not eat chicken on a bone, you can get either they give peanut butter sandwiches or bean burgers, which bean burgers are fucking amazing. Oh, they're so good. And you actually were allowed to stay with your ex at the nut house? That's crazy.
I started trying to pick up odd jobs where I would do something. Put up someone's drywall. No go. And so finally, using the name Vilk Vilkus, I put an ad on RentMan, and man, if I can give a massage and somebody's going to pay me, that's more honest money than what I was doing. If a man's going to pay me to rub him down, fine. So how long have you been doing that? Probably
Rent a man. Literally a thing.
about April of this year. So like massages? Just massages. It's like, you know what? I'll spend time with you. Man, can't guarantee. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, hey, guess what? I can't sell that because that's not the way the world works. But you want to spend your time with me? Boom. Here's your price. And I'll have a good time with it, and you will as well.
Mark's sudden career detour is hard to
Wow.
account for, even with odd stories of trust funds and hidden conspiracies. After being with his ex-wife and 4 children for a decade, his sudden interest in men has its own history that his ex-wife explains to the detectives.
I found a mail on the computer and I asked him about it and he said, oh, I just want to make sure I measure up. You just want to know how I measure up. And I, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
As time went on, however, Emily began to realize there was more to it than that.
He admitted to me that he was cheating with men, cheating on me with men. And I found out that he had been, meeting men when he was traveling and after work. And so we did counseling for a year and that didn't go anywhere. And he was still meeting men. And so I filed for divorce. I said, I'm finished.
Mark's first marriage ended in 2013, leading to a messy divorce and child visitation disputes, some of which involved the police.
It was in August. In the summer, he refused to bring them back. He was supposed to meet me, but he didn't tell me. We were supposed to meet in the morning to exchange the kids, and he didn't show up. So I called him, and at this point, he'd already called CPS on me 3 times. And so I called him.
Look, that shit is out of control. Hold on then. I didn't read them. Hold on. Right. Well, you didn't name anybody. I wouldn't really worry about it, Michael.
And he said, I'm not bringing it back. And I said, you need to.
But if you're going to break up with your partner or you guys split up, then why would you need to call CPS? See, that's stupid.
Bring them back. He says, I'm not going to. And if you don't like it, you can call the police.
Emily did call the police, which ultimately resulted in Mark getting arrested for parental kidnapping. The charge was later dropped, but it nonetheless was one of the first serious brushes Mark had with the law. Detectives proceed to inquire about another incident that brought state troopers out to his home a month ago in November.
Back in November, the troopers came out because there was somebody who ran from your house. What I'm saying is, if that was a consensual act, at what point or what caused him to flee?
He was freely walking around the house. There was no problem whatsoever. I in fact, had taken my eyes completely off of him. That's like, that's like, if you want to sit upstairs, go ahead, sit upstairs. Go. Do what you want. It was interesting that that at that point, and I don't know exactly what is going on inside of his head, but he had full ability to get his own clothes. They were right there. But he
All right, how much do you believe this, Michael? How much do you believe this guy? Just about this point, the guy in the kilt.
went, and he went to one of the most expensive pieces of leather articles that I own and put that on. My personal opinion is that he found the nicest piece of leather where he shimmied into it and he was going to walk with it, and if he got out of sight where I didn't know where he was, boom, he could call somebody and say, look, and then go home with it.
Mark dismisses the November incident and claims it was a matter of personal theft, no matter how much the other man's accusations might be similar to what seems to have happened with Kevin. Detectives are taking nothing for granted, however, and they use the subject of Mark's apparent willingness to take money from men online to...
I I don't believe it either. But it does seem like something somebody from Michigan would do. Just like try to steal your shit.
Circle back to their current investigation.
Did Kevin pay you for your time? Like when you were, did he? So
No.
could you imagine you massages were $200 an hour and then 15 for a day?
Look,
So that was nothing.
in this situation, it was there no money.
Gotcha. Okay.
The question, of course, is what exactly the situation was that brought Kevin Bacon into Mark's company on December 24th. And at last, investigators will hear Mark's version of how an online date turned tragic. A story designed to paint him as a man of compassion and honor, and not as a brutal murderer. He starts by describing their initial introduction on the app.
We chatted for a while. He described the things that he wanted. I did what I could to bring those things about. And after we sat and made an agreement about what was going to happen, we made the agreement, and he was supposed to disappear, be gone.
According to Mark, Kevin sought him out to spend a night that would culminate in mercy killing.
Okay, let's say that the police have a problem with it. I said, the police have a problem with it, then what? They throw me in jail. Or they try to. I said, I guess I'll just have to deal with that. But you know as well as I do that in our society, although we say, a man can just go, does our society really allow that? No. And what it leaves behind is all kinds of I'm going to say things for his family that
No.
now,
Michael, I
the things
definitely
that
know
I set up for him and
you are
plan
not
to do for him in that
of
regard
that
would
orientation. But
do
you're also not a
something
psych.
for his family that would make it easier. But that agreement between him and
And
I,
the previous guy you were roasting, he literally is a psychopathic pedophile. And he's not even psychopathic. He's more like an idiot millennial. Not a psychopath, just an idiot. Pedophile millennial.
really shouldn't have anything to do with anything but him or I.
The idea that Kevin may have
But this guy is cosplaying that, what is he? The show about the Vikings. This guy cosplays Vikings. He looks just like that Viking guy.
sought out a stranger on the internet to help him end his life is almost unimaginable. But there was a possibility. In an interview she later did with a media outlet, Kevin's roommate said that after watching the hanging scene in the movie A Star is Born, Kevin was, quote, out of it. The next day he overdosed on pills and had to have his stomach pumped. Did these ideations lead him to ask for Mark's help? To find out, police need to hear the story right from the beginning.
When did he come to your house?
I picked him up. We physically met in Swartz Creek. And that was when because he had given me details of what he wanted. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what. I will bring all of the things that you you would need so that you can
This
see
guy
them.
watches too much
I will
TV.
lay them out in front of you.
This guy watches way too much TV. He saw that Viking show and was like, "That's me. I need a boat."
I says, then I'll step back. I says, you need to decide. You need to decide because I'm not going to force you.
Mark describes that Kevin decided to change his clothes in the Family
I'm
Dollar
sure
parking
people
lot
know what
and insists everything was
Asperger's is.
entirely under Kevin's control.
That's what
What
that
he
is,
wants,
right?
yeah,
Asperger's
what
disease
he wants is what he wants.
or disorder.
But at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not going to put these on you. I says, take what you have, take it off, put it in the bag. And he says, you know what? Can I text a friend and say, you know what? I'm just gonna be out and you know whatever we blabbered about. And I say blabbered just because I said,
Okay, he sent that message. Because remember the message in the beginning? He texted a friend. Now he's like, he said, can I text a friend? Huh, I wonder, did he send that message?
you know what? You say whatever you want to say. And he says, okay, now that I've sent it, I'm going to turn my phone off.
The detectives now wonder if Kevin really knew what he was in for that night, or is this Mark's clever attempt to paint the reality of this obscene situation in a more favorable light?
And I says, look, you know, this way you're leaving everything behind, and it's like done. And at that point he says, okay, I'm ready. I went around and I shut the trunk, and then I put, you know, he gave me the key so that I could lock the car.
Yeah.
I put his bag in the back. I locked the car.
You locked his vehicle?
I locked his vehicle.
So his stuff is in his vehicle.
His stuff was in his vehicle.
And then does he stay in the back of your van?
And he stayed in the back of my van.
Okay, and then you leave the parking lot.
And then I left the parking lot.
Okay.
And then we went back to the house.
Mark's story, though utterly bizarre, is thoroughly detailed. This is why it's perhaps a bit surprising when the detectives stump him with what should be an easy follow-up question.
Do you know what you did with the keys for the car?
The keys were... See, he had the keys at first. He gave them to me.
Just a minor detail, I'm just curious.
I don't know. But
wow.
In any case, we went back to the house.
Though Mark can't quite remember what became of Kevin's car keys, he can remember what happened when they returned to his house. And though many of those explicit details have been redacted from the interrogation video, enough remains to get a sense of their evening, or at least Mark's account of it.
You go to the house, there's activity that occurs in the kitchen and then downstairs. And then...
Yeah, I mean, there's...
Yeah.
As far as I would consider it,
But people like this, people like this need to tell you what they did. Because I'm telling you what, if I murdered somebody, I would be in the same position. I'm like, let me tell you what I did. I'm guilty as fuck, but let me tell you what I did. I wouldn't be able to not tell people what I did.
Started, you know, when he said, yes, I'm in, let's start this. Blindfold on, blindfold out, change positions. You know the purpose of flogging, right?
Don't know the purpose of it, but...
Okay, well what it does is it brings it activates the blood vessels in the skin so that the sensations of touch and feel are heightened because the nerves are activated. So like that. So it was through an entire, each of the different movements that went through a different scenario.
Mark's description here directly references an area in his basement that investigators have seen and photographed. Characterized by boards in the shape of an X, the area stands in front of the strange dirt pit in the middle of the floor. This ominous area was apparently one of the last things Kevin saw before he died, and now the detectives want to know how that came to be.
So then, exactly how did Kevin say, what led to Kevin's death? He was telling you specifically what?
Well, I mean, it was a fairly long conversation. It's difficult.
So yeah, so he's telling you previously, and then what you're saying is he asked you to do that for him. Okay.
Yes. He was talking about how undignified, how horrible sometimes we let people die in that way. How they drag out. He actually came to tears, and we've talked about several things. What was I going to do? And part of it was the process of turning them into something that would grow tulips for his family. He says, but my family will never know that it's me. I says, no, tulips are starvation food. They'll know that they'll have tulips. Do you want them to know that that's something that you're giving them? No, it's not something that I want them to know. Is this something that you want them to know? And he says, no.
As outlandish as Kevin's plans for his remains may sound,
he doesn't think he's going to jail. He's telling them this so he can go home. I don't think he realizes he's going to jail. I mean, probably deep down inside he does, but from what it sounds like, he thinks that he did this guy a favor. I don't know what their text messages said.
The first weird detail that Mark has shared today. Indeed, in talking to Jamie, the man Mark married shortly after divorcing his wife, they realize that strange statements have become a big part of who their suspect is.
Are you guys still in a relationship at this
No,
point?
well, we're still legally married,
Yeah.
but we're separated. I mean, I got out of there because he was starting to just say a lot of very unusual things that just didn't make sense. And then he started just within this last year that the neighbor was contaminating our well. And it was like, why would he do that? It didn't make any sense to me that our neighbor would start contaminating our well. But he said, well, they are. You can't drink it. You can't bathe it. I'd wake up and he'd be over me saying that I was a gray, green-eyed tribe leader and that when the world turned upside down that my people were going to need me to lead them again and that he was somehow the leader of the North. And
Watching too many
like toxins. He took me to Dr.
Viking
Gomez
videos.
to tell the doctor that I was secreting this toxin when I was sleeping.
And that was all brand new since the end of summer, beginning of
And
fall.
that was since his being fired in February from his job.
Jamie may pinpoint the beginning of Mark's mental decline to this year, but others say it goes back quite a bit further.
He had a lot of, he believed people were watching him and all those, but believed that my brother and I poisoned as well. Because my brother's a plumber and he did all of the work on the house for the plumbing. And so, but other than that, he was never a danger to himself or others that I believed. I got him to go in again and then he came back out. And he was in the basement the second time. So yes, he was hospitalized before I moved out the second time, because he had medication that he filled again, but he wasn't taking it because I was counting them to make sure he was taking it. And I discovered that he wasn't taking it.
When he was hospitalized the second time, was it at the same facility?
Yes. And that was I believe that was the time he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
And that would have been maybe in 2000.
This guy's giving schizophrenia a bad name.
12?
Yes.
But a history of mental illness did not necessarily mean that Mark's story is a fantasy of his
Yes,
own
it is.
concoction. Perhaps it only helps explain why he thought that it made sense to provide Kevin with this kind of assistance in the first place.
I've never done this. I know that I've never done this before.
Okay, so what did you do?
And, well, after talking to him in multiple ways, that was when I says, well, I could slit your throat. Here's the knife. I could do it that way, and I couldn't do it. I says, I don't know if that would be painless. And we debated it, all of the different ways. I said, I have a sword upstairs, but it wouldn't work. I was afraid I would hurt him. I'm not ready. I couldn't do that. I couldn't run the risk of maiming him and having him suffer.
Ultimately, Mark says he decided that a knife would produce the quickest, cleanest result.
Where's the knife now? It is upstairs in.
I think
because I
that's
cleaned it off.
really
And it is upstairs in the dresser drawer. I think on the right-hand side, top.
Wow.
Is it a bedroom? Someone's bedroom or your bedroom?
Yes.
The police find the knife, as well as a receipt from Walmart. They go out to the store, where they photograph a knife in the display rack that matches the look and price of the one in Mark's possession. Furthermore,
They just
obtain
wanted a
surveillance
trip
video
to
from the store that
Walmart.
shows Mark purchasing
There's
the
no
weapon that would
reason they
end
needed
Kevin
to take
Bacon's life.
that.
The knife will surely prove to be valuable evidence in this investigation. But the central question remains, is it a murder weapon? Or is it merely the tool with which Mark ended Kevin's suffering on his request?
They're the same thing.
This is what it is. And he looked at it. We laid together for a while. He asked me to. I did.
Literally the same thing.
I'm sorry, asked you to do what? Just lay with him?
Just lay with him. Just lay with him and hold him. And finally, he says, you know what? I'm ready. I'm on the back side because he's laying on the floor and it would be across the room. And he had his head facing it would be the east wall. And so when I went in, you obviously have on the picture there's the spray that went to the west. There was a fair amount of blood. And I went, I don't want him to suffer. And I went, I can see that. And that was, and then of course it was a matter of
That poor cop, he's like, yeah, I can. The dude was like, there's a lot of blood. He's like, yeah, I can see that. This poor cop, I'm sure they do not know what the fuck to do. Look at their faces. They're like, oh my God, their faces.
doing what I needed to.
Is that dirt thing? Yes. But see, that's what I was thinking. Why didn't he just put the body up over the dirt thing? But there was no blood on the dirt thing. So I'm not exactly sure
to complete what I told him I would do. Turn him into something that would produce life.
It soon becomes clear that no matter what the reality of the situation might have been in Mark's house on Christmas Eve, he means to emphasize to the detectives that his greatest concern was minimizing Kevin's suffering.
I need to make sure that this is quick and not drawn out. And so it was then that it's like, okay, let's get this so that.
And if we don't believe the first guy was really about the kilt, the first guy might have been his first attempt, which is why maybe when the Kevin guy got tied up, that's when he killed him. Or kill him immediately, something like that. Kill him before he has a chance to get away. Is maybe what I thought. Maybe that first guy was a first attempt.
Quicker? I was trying to speed it up at that point because he was already unconscious.
Okay.
But I could tell, because, I mean, you could tell he was, in any case, it was the realization of this wasn't enough.
Mark tells the detectives that once he realized that even a direct stab wound to the base of the neck would not be enough to finish the job, he took further measures to ensure Kevin's quick demise.
I saw that it was going longer, and I took his head and I moved it to the side and this way. So it was as much as I could in order to, whatever it was, it at least initiated another gash that was there wasn't the spray like there was the first time, so it was at least more effective.
Mark's description of the stab wound and the...
Oh, yeah. I think this might have been his first murder. But I think he does go around, like, hurting men or robbing men or something like that. But you are right. This is kind of very elaborate. So, you know what? You might be right. I had to think about that for a second. Yeah, this is super elaborate.
The subsequent slitting of Kevin's throat matches what investigators have seen at the crime scene. But while it provides one possible explanation of how Kevin's death came to be, that's all it is at this point. And there are other aspects of Kevin's observable injuries that, sickening as they are, have yet to be addressed. Mark will eventually speak to those as well, but first, he takes the police through the next stage of this morbid evening.
I stayed with them for quite a while. I mean, that was very important. And I says, you will not die alone. I says, I won't.
You know, that, to me, as an outsider looking in, that shows me the type of person you are.
I said, I won't do that.
Absolutely.
I said,
you're a man of your word.
Regardless of what it is, I won't let you die alone.
Yeah.
And
that's very stand up of you. I mean,
well,
not a lot of people would do that.
It wasn't easy. Once he was clearly deceased, then I was like, okay, let's get him up as much as I could, so that one, what blood there was in the sand could go out into the flower bed.
Sure. When you strung him or pulled him so he's suspended, the purpose was so the blood would go into the ground.
Right, so the blood would go in the ground and then would be contained rather than, because by that time he was already unconscious, and it was just a matter of saying,
The other thing about this is it's like they reported him missing on Christmas, and they were already searching for him by Christmas night or the day following Christmas or whatever. It's like they found this guy in like 3 days. It's crazy. Because normally missing person report doesn't take like a day or so unless it's a baby. I don't know.
It's done. So it was the after portion of cleaning him up. What I didn't get to yet was to wash him up, clean him up. And, I started to pull the sand out that was there to start to clean it up. But
oh, did he? Hold on. He did started to pull the sand out. So he did use the dirt thing. Man, maybe he did murder before.
that was there to start to clean it up. But, it was a matter of, it takes a little bit of time to, depending if you ever processed the deer.
Sure.
It's
let the blood drain out.
It's the same process.
As shocking as it may be to calmly compare the killing of a human being to the cleaning of a game animal, it's clear by now that Mark feels no remorse or regret about what he's done. On the
These
contrary,
cops, man, they're just looking at him like, what the fuck? These cops' faces, man, they are life.
he appears to view it as an act of kindness and mercy. Indeed, he didn't even keep it a secret.
And even when I was talking to him, I don't feel that I did anything wrong.
Did you tell anybody else about this, other than us?
I did, because part of my culture is that if you have an honorable death, then you have to tell somebody before you pass 3 houses. I did have to tell someone, and even when I talked to him, he says, just call me Kevin Bacon. And I went, okay. I said, if I say that I killed Kevin Bacon, he says, no one's gonna believe you. I said, I could tell anybody, and no one would believe me. He says, because of my name. I actually texted before I ever did anything, I went up and I texted a friend who was, and I'm going to say,
the stand.
What's the correct word? Understanding of the situation, because he was he's a
shit
judge
about the
advocate.
sand. That's when it's like, yeah, okay. He probably did this before. But then he said, yeah, like you do a deer. So maybe his thing was killing animals. Killing deer and shit like that, and sadistically doing weird shit like that. But I don't know. He definitely thinks he's some kind of Viking. So he probably... Man, you know what? I can't tell with this guy because this definitely seems like a first murder. But he's talking about it expertly. But he also mentioned gutting deer. So it's weird.
In New York, and I sent him a text and I said, you know what? I did this. I says, and I love him. He's my hero. And
I'm sorry, who's your girl?
I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero.
It is yet another twist in this grim saga. Mark uses his victim's coincidentally famous name to confess without any fear of repercussions. Indeed, when police finally speak to Mark's friend in New York, he tells them that he hardly gave the unusual text a second thought. After all, such a murder would be headline news all over the world. Is this kind of slyness consistent with the story Mark is telling detectives? Perhaps that question is in the back of their minds as Mark describes how he proceeded in the hours ahead.
I was covered in a little, not covered, but it's like I had some on me. And I looked at it and it's like I had done what I needed to do, and I could wash this off. Nope, I'm not going to. And at that point, I went upstairs and I crawled into bed, and I just left it.
In a bone-chilling admission, Mark reveals that not only did he refuse to wash Kevin's blood off himself before going to bed, he kept it on even the next day when he went to his husband's house for a Christmas Day gathering.
I got up and it was middle of the afternoon when I was supposed to go over.
Okay, that's going a little far, isn't it? That's just extra. That's all kinds of extra.
And I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm not. And I left it right on. And I put on what clothing I had. And I'm like, I'm not going to wash him off.
It's unnerving to realize that just as Kevin Bacon's family was growing anxious about his absence from the Christmas festivities, the man who brought about his death was attending a nude gathering miles away with the blood of their son on his body.
And then people started showing up. Don't know
Yes.
exact times because I was busy, but I want to say
Texas Chainsaw Massacre taught me that butchers know what they're doing.
time in the afternoon, like around 12-ish. Mark didn't
What
get
is
there,
that handsome
so after
man?
everybody else had, and again,
The man in that leather coat, even though he's like gay and whatnot, he's cute.
Mark was the last one to get there.
About what time do you think that was?
Again, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to say around 1, 2 o'clock.
According to their interviews with other attendees, no one noticed anything out of the ordinary as it pertained to Mark. But the police aren't just interested in the gathering. They're interested specifically in Jamie, whose interactions with Mark continued after that day. Jamie explains that he and Mark went to the gym together on either Thursday, the day after Christmas, or Friday, which would have been only a matter of hours before police showed up at Mark's door. He says that even though he drove Mark home that night, he didn't enter the house and thus had no way of knowing what was hanging from the ceiling of Mark's basement. Under normal circumstances, Jamie might have been able to check his text messages to better frame this timeline. But that is, unfortunately, and perhaps for police, not possible.
I was going through the messages, reading them over, seeing what what was in them, so I could just see if I missed something somewhere then I went to, hold the phone, and next thing I know, they're all deleted because somehow I had touched these phones. I swear to God, they're so sensitive. Touched something to make it go to the delete all, which I never meant to do.
The matter of these deleted texts is not a possibility for police, as they can typically recover all deleted messages. For now, however, they listen to Jamie and others tell them that, for all of his eccentricities, killing a man seems wildly out of character for Mark.
I never thought he would ever be capable of anything like this.
I don't know. I don't know. This is not his personality. I can't see Mark hurting a thing. I just don't see it. I've never seen him bone in his body.
There was nothing that ever would have said he would do anything like this.
Does their disturbed and confused position on Mark's actions only strengthen his story that he was doing an honorable favor for a man in need?
I wonder about that because, you know, I watch a lot of this stuff and it's like, would Dustin murder me if he got another girlfriend? Would he let his other girlfriend murder me? I think about that sometimes, but then I'm like, no, because he can live without me about as much as I can live without me, and that's like 0. So I'm not too worried about it. And plus, Dustin has a hard time getting along with people. So I guess I don't have to worry about it too much. But I often do worry about that. I'm not worried about him killing the other person. I'd be more worried about him killing me because I told him, I'm not moving unless you help me change my address. It's too much paperwork. We're stuck together because of paperwork.
Have you ever been requested in the past to do something that you did to Kevin, where they were down or they wanted to end their life? Have you ever assisted people?
No, there have been people who have hinted at it.
Okay.
There have been people who
I'm telling
just
you,
kind of
cuz you don't even have to worry about
play
that.
around with it a little bit.
I am out of my 20s and Dustin's out of his 20s. There's no more fist fighting each other, dude. I'll be 40 in November, and he'll be like 45 in September. We're not fist fighting anybody unless, like, we got a breathing machine. There's no fist fighting. Not anymore. I'm too crippled and I'm too old. And he is also too crippled and too old. So we got that going for us.
But I've always, that I've.
But Andy said the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. And he said it to a full-grown man. I'll make you wear pink panties and make you my bitch. Is the funniest shit I have ever heard in my life. And I about died. Is the funniest fucking thing.
Shied away from it for obvious reasons.
Okay. Have you taken the life of anybody else? I'm speaking
to my knowledge, no.
Okay. What do you mean?
Wow, wait a minute. To my knowledge, I've never killed anyone.
No, I have not taken any. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
But for as much as the detectives may want to believe that, there are reasons to think otherwise. Starting with the incident from November where a panicked man in a kilt was running in fear from his home. But even that was not an isolated occurrence, as police soon found out. Looking through their own reports, they see a call a man made in October, not far from where Mark lives. 40. The man says he was picked up from the Greyhound terminal in Flint by an unknown individual that he intended to spend the night with. However, that night he woke up restrained in the basement of the man's house. Terrified, he used a nearby knife to cut himself free before fleeing the house in a state of panic. When he got far enough away, he called police. But the strange thing about this incident, as police will only learn in the aftermath of Kevin's death, is that the man from the October report is actually the same New York friend that Mark sent that cryptic text to on Christmas Eve. I killed Kevin. No
fucking way. Oh, that is out of control. No way. Wow. How lucky does that guy feel? Holy cow. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Because when he answered that question, he was shaking his head no, which means that's a sign of not telling the truth. Well, mixed with other things, but we can't really see his face, so we can't really tell.
Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero. On December 30th, 2 days after the initial interrogation, police questioned Mark about this incident.
This particular time that he was at the house, though, when he was out running away, he claims running away from you because he was scared.
Oh, he says that?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that.
No.
But
Was there a time where you had him held against his will at any point?
no, he had free reign.
It was all consensual.
That was all completely consensual.
When police speak again to the man from New York, he acknowledges that the October incident happened, but indicates that his call to 911 that night had more to do with getting lost on the roads than from wanting to report a crime. He went back to Mark's house willingly and stayed for an additional...
Bullshit. I call bullshit. That guy is like, I do not even. I do not even. He wasn't about to kill me. I swear to God, I was lost. I was lost. That guy was not trying to kill me.
A few days. Even so, the similarities between these stories cannot be ignored, and they cast some degree of doubt as to whether Kevin's death was the mercy killing that Mark is making it out to be. Further complicating the situation is a text Mark sent to his husband Jamie in the early morning hours.
What did the text messages say? We would know for sure if we knew the text messages.
On December 25th, a message about bringing bacon over for the gathering, but warning, it's not the kind you like.
Pretty sure I mentioned something about coming over for breakfast, and then he said, like what you told me, that about the bacon, and yes, I do remember, it seemed like there was something said in a text message about bacon and you wouldn't like it, and that's really all.
Did you respond to that?
Not that I remember.
You know, besides, you know, I know there's some conversations, you know, about the bacon thing, and of course the victim's name is Kevin Bacon. That would upset me, you know, seeing something like that. Is that how you kind of take it now?
No, not until you just answered it. I never even put the two together.
Okay.
Did you know the victim's name was Kevin? You had to.
I
We talked
knew
about it in the interview.
after the interview, yes. But I didn't even think, like text messages, when you said about the bacon, it's like, and I never put bacon and bacon as.
The fact that Jamie accidentally deleted all of his messages with Mark makes pinpointing the specifics of the conversation more difficult.
No, it doesn't.
But not,
you could
as
just
Jamie
get a
seems to
search warrant
understand,
and
impossible.
But I knew that there's no way, from what I've been
This
told.
aggravating about these cops. They could have already solved all of this with one warrant to the phone company. And all of these questions would be answered with a warrant to the phone company for the text messages. It's pretty simple.
With computers, which an iPhone is nothing more than a computer, you can never delete everything. Nothing is permanently deleted.
Indeed, it isn't long before the police get a first-hand look at the message Mark sent to Jamie that night. It says, among other things, "I had bacon for dinner last night." The word bacon is capitalized. It's an extraordinarily suspicious message, considering Mark's insistence that this killing was done with solemnity and the utmost respect for human dignity. But that suspicion can only turn into abject horror when one realizes fully what Mark did after killing Kevin that night, and what he had planned for the days ahead.
And it was then that I started to do what I told him I was going to do. I was going to eat part of him, and I did. It was the new moon. and honoring my word to what I said I would do.
Mark's word in this instance extended to castrating the now deceased Kevin Bacon.
I think his husband wants to do whatever he can to distance himself from this. Just like the woman. He's like, look, I deleted all my messages. I don't even want anybody to know I was even married to this guy. But if I was married to him, I'd be like, dude, my husband went to prison for cannibalism. I tell everybody, I was married to a cannibal once. It was the greatest. Yeah. Well, human meat is called the other pork, the other white meat, the other pork.
Was that his wishes? Is that the main reason why he did it?
It was the discussion, you know, like wherever, you know, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I will eat you, you know, and he says, okay.
I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
How did you do that? Did you cook them? Did you? Where did you do that? I mean,
I ate them with some nice Chianti and some fava beans.
Like with a frying pan.
It was the griddle, and I mean I eat Rocky Mountain oysters anyway.
Sure.
I have
I need to quit life right now. The fuck he just say? Oh, I quit life like yesterday. What the hell did he just say? Hold on.
You know, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I will eat you, you know, and he says, okay.
How did you do that? Did you cook them? Did you? Where did you do that? I mean,
on the kitchen stove.
Like with a frying pan.
It was the griddle, and I mean I eat Rocky Mountain oysters anyway.
Sure.
I have a carton of them that I had bought, and so it's really very simple. You slice them thin, you saute them with some Worcestershire sauce, and once they're done, you just eat them.
Mark describes this part of the evening's activities with the same chilling calm that he described the rest of it. And it turns out that this late-night snack was only the beginning of his deranged intentions.
You know, the other portions were going to be a jerky and the like. I mean, I didn't know that at the time, and so afterwards, and in fact, I mean, yesterday, maybe it was, well, depends on what day it is now.
No, Saturday morning.
But I just ordered a dehydrator. So
leave the dehydrator alone. Do not touch the dehydrator. Oh my God. I have a dehydrator and I made beef jerky one time. But I use it to dry beets to make beet powder. It's good for your blood. Everybody should have beets. It's good for your blood.
You know, so that, you know, I mean, I said not knowing, just so that I could.
I would not. Ugh. God, could you imagine? Baby, let me eat part of your flesh while I donkey punch you from the back.
Process the way and do what he wanted me to do.
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Leave it alone.
Absolutely.
A couple of days later, the police intercept a package from Amazon that was headed for Mark's address. Inside, they indeed find a Magic Mill food dehydrator. But that's only one aspect of the comprehensive plans he made for Kevin's remains.
His internals were going to go out back, and I was going to put the peach pits in them. And then the rest of them, I have the chestnut that are in the refrigerator, and I had been meaning to plant them before, but really never had anything that, to grow them with. I was going to drop the chestnuts into a portion of them. There's a pile of mulch out back. I was just going to cover them with mulch.
You're going to cover the bones with mulch?
No, not the bones. I was just going to take the internal gut portion.
Oh my God.
And get rid of it. So that they were each growing things. The muscle portion was going to go into the dehydrator that I purchased after.
I didn't even know you could turn pork into beef jerky. Oh, I didn't know you could turn pork into jerky. If you can't turn pork into jerky, you can't turn human into jerky. I don't know. I might, if I remember, I'm gonna find out if you can make pork jerky.
Yesterday, or it's going to be delivered on Monday, because that was, that came out of the discussion. So I didn't have anything, planned for it at that point. And
He's got big muscles.
And then I was just going to, crush up the bones into bone meal, and then see if,
seasoning.
What?
Seasoning, is that what you said?
No, grind them up into bone meal, and take the bone meal and pair them with tulip bulbs, and figure out some way to, just have them appear somewhere.
Michael,
To the very
there's a
end,
point
Mark
there,
sticks to
you
his
gotta
original
point.
story, that this was a benevolent act meant only to fulfill Kevin's own wishes. But that story has some holes, starting with those earlier incidents where men he held captive had to escape and call the police.
No.
He never asked to
Okay,
leave,
wait
and
a
you.
minute. I thought there was only one man, but now there's multiple mans.
Had him chained up in the basement.
Well,
There's also the matter of the trip to Walmart Mark made to purchase the knife. This wasn't a purchase made 6 months ago, or even 6 weeks ago. Mark bought that knife on Christmas Eve, only a few short hours before he plunged it into the back of Kevin's neck. But perhaps most damning is the fact that police have the chat between Mark and Kevin from the dating app. And while Mark goes into a great deal of explicit detail regarding the plans he has, neither he nor Kevin mention anything about the night ending in Kevin's demise.
You guys find a Mark Latomsky out there with black hair and black eyes and is a cripple? I want to know where he is.
But that's not going to be the main priority of the police or the prosecutors. They arrest Mark David Latomsky for 1 count of open murder and 1 count of disinterment and mutilation of a dead body. As for Mark's estranged husband, Jamie, the police asked him to take a polygraph test and concluded that he had nothing whatsoever to do with the crime.
And again, I'll just ask you again, you had nothing to do with this. You had no knowledge of Kevin being at the house, Kevin Bacon, what he never told you what he did to him, nothing.
No, I
none
think
of that.
this is awful. I think I can't.
What would you have done had you been told or made aware of this prior to?
If I had known what had happened, I would have come to police.
In September of
bet he
2022,
would've.
roughly 3 years after his arrest,
I
Mark
believe that
Latomsky
because he looks like the kind of guy that would be like, nope.
pleaded guilty to murder and the mutilation of a dead body. Following a trial in December 2022, Mark was sentenced to life without parole for 1 count of first-degree murder and 11 months for 1 count of disinterment of a dead body. Mark is currently serving the sentence at Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in
Dun,
Michigan.
dun, dun. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to tell you, like and subscribe. Yes. Thank you for coming and watching and having a good time with me before bed. Thank you. Don't forget, give your pillow some head and your sheets some ass, and have the sweetest dreams ever. Love you so much. And Michael, I believe that part could be true. Absolutely. Now, I love you so